Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to, oh my goodness, can you believe it's already May? First and third, our first one for the month of May. May is my favorite month because I love spring, and well, there are a lot of cool people born in May, me being one of them. So we'll jump right in. This is a topic that I just shared with the ASCs in the Michigan region at our statewide training. Just last week or the week before, not that long ago. So it's a great refresher for them, but for those of you that weren't at the training, it will be all new to you. And this call is being recorded, so it might be an information dump for a lot of you, but you can always go back and view it later if you need a refresher. But again, I'm kind of passionate about this because what we're going to do today is we're actually going to use Moxi Present to create a newsletter to share with our office. So not only are you showing your agents what they can do with Moxi Present, you're showing them that you're kind of an expert and they can come to you with questions. We're also going to look at a lot of the content we're going to put in here are just great other reminders, some of the other tools that they have access to and that they have available. So with that as a preface, we're just going to jump right in and I'll show you what we're going to create. We're not going to replicate the whole thing, but I'll show you first what we're kind of talking about, and then we'll jump in and we'll start building one. So I'm going to share my screen. I am filling in today in another office, so I don't have my dual monitor. So if you have a question, I might not see it right away. You can either unmute yourself and shout it out, or I will be coming back and checking on questions. So now I just got to find out why my little share screen button isn't working. Where did it go? Oh, there we go. And here we are. So, and I'll also be moving stuff around because stuff will get in my way, these little boxes and such for the Zoom call. But this is what we're going to look at creating. So it's just a nice newsletter. We've got a great little header, and we're going to look at some of the places I grabbed some of these assets, because again, we're looking at reminders for even other tools that we can highlight for our agents. Always, we want to give shout outs to our agents. We want to, give them kudos, wish them happy birthdays. We'll let them know when they've done a good job. So I've got some agent incentives in here in the newsletter. And then, some useful information. So here is maybe a Moxi Monday that you feel might be important, or, some tutorial or training or some important video information we're including. Maybe your office is running a contest and you want to remind them of the contest. So I've got a little graphic here. And again, we're going to look at where I grabbed all of this stuff from. Floor calendar, very useful for offices that have floor. Inserting your floor calendar into your newsletter so that they have access to it and they always know where to come and find it. The nice thing about adding something like a floor calendar, I haven't opened this since April. So you never have to change this. Once this is part of your newsletter, it's automatically going to go to that day on the calendar moving forward. So if you have a Google Calendar that you do your floor on, you're never going to have to update this as you move through and redo your newsletter. It's going to automatically update. Again, some images. And then I went out because, you don't want to be all serious. You want to give them a giggle. Went out and grabbed a funny video from YouTube. Probably don't want to use images because we're not licensed to use images. I did throw that in there for the training. But video you can, because A, these YouTube content creators want people to watch their video, and B, the minute they click play, they're going to see it's a YouTube video and they can go out and see whose copyright or whose information that is. So stuff like that is okay to use. And again, it just kind of gives them a funny break from all the other information you might be sharing. And then again, some more information I pulled from Coldwell Banker, and this is just a little infographic on their courses. So a nice reminder to our agents that, oh my gosh, if I take their classes, I'm going to increase my business. So just throwing images that we find from the brand and other places in there. So this is what we're going to create. And whenever I talk about newsletters, even with agents, I talk about for me, it's easier to go out and grab all of these pieces before I come in here and start laying them out. So first, we're going to jump back over to my other browser where I've opened all the places that I would go to for these assets. So you can kind of maybe even make a little list or just see where I went to for some of this information. Super thirsty, sorry about that. And one of those is actually in this tab. So you'll see I made this. Now, obviously, some of these things, and we're going to see in just a minute, I grabbed from BrandServe, from Coldwell Banker National's asset library. But obviously, I added stuff to it. Same with maybe the birthday graphic here, or this little guy here. I went to an online tool called Canva. And there's a lot of training on those. We're not going to jump deep into Canva, but this is where you can kind of jazz up some of your pictures or some of your announcements. You can come in here, it's free. You can upgrade, but all you need is the free service. That's all I used. And you can see that's where I created some of these things like this. So if you want to, the other nice thing about Canva is, say you like this image and this is going to be your header all the time, you can always come back into Canva and just make those changes. So maybe I made this for May, but I want to keep it for my June newsletter too. I can come back into this tool and make those changes. So that's one of the places I go for my assets. Again, there's a ton of tutorials on Canva. We even have one in Schmidt Video Classroom where Samantha Straight walks us through how she used it for some of her things. So all of my other asset gathering stuff is in another browser. I'll open that up and we'll just walk through. Because this one, the stuff I have in this browser are things that I think are important to, you know, if the agent says, hey, that's a pretty cool image, where did you grab that from? Again, one of those things this newsletter is really useful for. You can say, oh, I went into CB Desk, into BrandServe, where you can access all the logos and all these images that Coldwell Banker has that we don't have to worry about royalties or licenses for, because they're licensed for all of us as Coldwell Banker affiliates. So I went into marketing assets photography, went to, where did I go? I might have went into social media covers. Darn it. I thought that there was a Coldwell Banker image and I thought I knew where this was. Coldwell Banker logos. Nope. Photography. Nope. It's probably, yeah, here it is. So it is just in standard photography, but you'll notice this right here is that image that I used for that header. So there's a couple other logoed images with little gear on them. There's some office spaces. So super easy. You just find an image that you might want to use as a header in your newsletter and you download it. And then you can take it into Canva and add any extra text over it you may want to, or you can just use the plain image as it is. So that's one of the places I went for my assets. And I already have all of these downloaded in a folder, but I would have downloaded that, taken it into Canva and added the text as you saw. Another thing that I'm going to use, or that we've already looked at, is a calendar. Actually, I prefer to use my floor calendar, or I'm going to steal the White House floor calendar, which is right here. So to put this calendar into my newsletter, what I'm going to need, and we'll come back here as we're building it, is to go into the three dots, because this right here isn't necessarily a shareable link. So I'm going to go into my three dots and select settings and sharing. And I'm going to scroll down where it says public URL to this calendar. This is what I'm going to use to put it in my newsletter. And we'll walk through that when we actually do it too. I just wanted to show you where all the assets are coming from. Now, a calendar like this, the Schmidt resources or the Schmidt education calendar, I can just take that URL because it is a public calendar. So I would just click on here for this one and copy that. Another place I go for my assets is Schmidt resources. So I'm going to go to something a little different here. A lot of times I'll go to the social media or the graphics section, but I also know something that's very useful for agents that we do here in Michigan is market share reports. So maybe instead of an image from here, and I see something in the chat. I do not have Canva Pro. I just have the free version, and I created that in the free version. So, yep. All right, let me close that. And so I'm going to click on market share reports. And again, oh, they're not in here yet. So generally they upload a PDF and a JPEG. So I would just download the JPEG, and then I would be able to actually put a market share report image into my newsletter. 2021 are coming soon. One other asset though that I do like to talk about, and I think I kind of have it here. We use letter of the law in a lot of our sales meetings here in Michigan. It's our Michigan Association of Realtors website. It's the legal section. But I did notice when I was doing a training with the Florida agents that their board has market share reports that they have on their website. So even though ours aren't ready yet here in Michigan, you guys there in Florida may be able to go out to your local board and grab market share there. And we're going to look at how to embed a web page, because you could just put that whole page in the newsletter. So hopefully I'm not going too fast, but this is being recorded, and it'll make a lot more sense when we start actually putting this stuff in there. So the other two things that I have open, Coldwell Banker blog. There might be a blog post you want to put in there. I'm going to use this as an example of how to put a web page in. So if you wanted to put like a web page from your local association that had some useful information for your agents, I'm going to show you how to do that with one of these Coldwell Banker blogs. And then of course there's always video. You saw I had a Moxi minute in the newsletter, so we could do a training little thing right there inside the newsletter. So I have all of my assets kind of available and ready. Anything that was an image or something like that, I've already downloaded. And on my desktop, I have a folder called newsletter, and that's where I put it all so that I can find it easily when I start building my newsletter. All right, I'm ready to jump right in. And now I've got this box in the way again. So much easier to train when you have two monitors. Let me see if I can get this to move. Right. Go away. There we go. All right, so now I am back in my other browser where I have my Moxi Present open. And right here, I am now logged into MoxiWorks, clicked on Present, and I'm actually going to start this from scratch. We're not going to use a template or anything. We're just going to jump right in and start creating a newsletter. So I'm going to go to Create New. I'm going to do non-listing. I don't want any information coming in. I just want a basic, plain old presentation. I'm actually going to select no template. I don't even want any additional slides or anything to come in because I'm building this all from scratch, and I'm going to continue. I'm sitting in Fremont today, so we'll say, even though we're using all the Whitehall information because I have that handy, I'm going to call this Fremont newsletter. Nothing else really matters. Except for office displayed. Most of you probably just have one office, but you'll want to make sure it's the correct office. And then we're going to create. And Present's just taking its time. And there we go. So in the past, when we've done Present trainings, we've always had a bunch of slides here and all kinds of stuff. We're coming in fresh, clean slate. They're not providing us anything. We're going to do it from scratch because, of course, we're all rock stars. So we need to add a page because there's no pages yet. And we're going to create our page. And we're going to build it. I usually go with this one. I rarely use 3 columns, but this is basically what these layouts are. Every container is separate. You can put something different in each one of these boxes. So it just depends on how you want that to look. And it doesn't matter what you start with, because we're going to look at how to remove and add rows, because obviously I had more than 3 rows in the newsletter I showed you. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this one here. And I'm going to create. And there you go. It looks scary at first, but once you get in here and start playing around, you'll find it's actually pretty simple. And as long as it's text, image, or video, it's no-brainer simple. It's just very, very easy. When we get into the more, which we'll get into a couple times, it's a little more work, but it's always pretty much standard and pretty much the same what you're going to do in there with the more content. So for the first one, remember we created an image in Canva, and that's going to be my header. So I'm going to click image and go to that folder that I downloaded, or that I downloaded everything to on my desktop. It's called newsletter. And here are all my assets. So I would just find the one, it's probably this one, cover office swag. But I don't actually want to upload it again. I just wanted to walk you through the process. Obviously I'd click open, because the nice thing is once you've uploaded something, it's going to stay in your assets library. You don't have to upload it again. So now that we've walked through how I uploaded it the first time, you'll see it's actually right here. And all I have to do is click add. So if I uploaded it, it would show up here, and I would still have to click the add button after it was brought into my library, because that's also confirming I have the rights to use that photo. So I clicked add, and there we have our nice little header for our newsletter. You can go a couple different ways with this. You can be consistent about the image and maybe just change some of the information on it. That way, every time they open it, they know it's the newsletter. Kind of like we talked about with agents, consistent branding, or you can change it up every month. If you have fun pictures around the office or something you'd rather use as the header, you could do that as well. So we've got our top line done, and now we want to start adding some of that extra stuff. Now, if we go back and look at my version, you'll see that I vary, and this is just a personal preference for me. Style and design is totally up to each individual, but I rarely use columns that are the same size side by side. I kind of usually do a big column and a short column. So we're going to look at how that works, because I'm going to actually get rid of this one because it's too balanced for me. So I'm going to hit the trash can, and that's going to take it away, and I can delete it. And now I'm going to add my own row. So you can have up to 4 columns in your row. And if you have 2, you can have 4 or 5 different, 5 different like setups. You can have a really skinny and a really wide. You can have 1/3 to 2/3. You can have 50-50. And then you can go in the other direction with those 2 options. I'm going to go ahead and do this one here, 1/3 and 2/3. Actually, I'm going to go 2/3 and 1/3, and I'm going to click OK. And now I've added my row. So if we go back and look here, I kind of like to do agent recognition really early on in my newsletters. Again, it doesn't matter. You can break things up and throw them around a little bit. But we usually have our top 3 that we do for our offices in this region. So I'm going to go ahead and put our top 3 here. Again, that's just another simple image that we get from marketing once a month. And I'm going to go ahead and click right here. Or actually, I think the template might even be available in the ASC Square as well. But click add, and now I have my top producing agent recognition in my newsletter. Just to mix it up a little bit, even though it's not going to match what I did before, I'm going to go ahead and click on text now, just so we can see how that works. And again, pretty self-explanatory and simple. Once I click text, my formatting text toolbar is going to show up. So for the first row of my text, I kind of like to do a header. So I changed it to center weighted, and I'm going to change that format to medium text, bold. Welcome to spring, whatever the text you might want to include there is. And maybe we'll even make it a little bigger. So I'm highlighting my text because I don't think that medium is big enough, and I'm going to go with large. So now that I have my header, I can unbold, go to medium or small text, left align so that it's more like a paragraph, and then just type your content here. Blah, 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 blah. So that's how the text works. Once I click away, it's saved and that box is there. All right. Now we're going to need another row because again, I avoid the same size content. That's just my design preference. And this time I'm going to go the opposite. I'm going to put the small on this side and the big on this side, and we'll say, okay. Let's grab our birthday graphic, some more agent recognition. We'll do this one. And again, normally I would upload because every month will be different. How did I add a row? So I'll go back to that again. To add a row, it's the plus sign off to the right. I'm going to select how many columns are up here. It's called modules, but you would select how many here. And I selected the size or the weight of each size for a 2-row column by switching this slider here. And then if I realize I didn't need to add that row, or if it's a row that was already there I don't want, I would click the garbage can to remove it. So now before we get into the more option, the other easy option here is video. Now video isn't going to live in your newsletter, so you're not going to upload a video file into your newsletter. The video has to live somewhere, and the easiest place, especially since we all have YouTube, is since we all have G Suite, is YouTube, because YouTube is part of G Suite. Sorry, I was watching something else. So here I am in Schmidt Video Classroom. So this is a YouTube channel, and let's say I wanted to share something about creating newsletters in Moxi. So I'm searching our YouTube channel right here for newsletter. And here is making Moxi newsletters. This must be an agent one I did ages ago, but we're going to go ahead and just grab it by clicking on the name.
This is Monday.
And right here where it says share, I'm going to click here where it says copy. Okay, so now we'll go back to more, or I'm sorry, to video. We're doing video this time. And right here, you can also use Vimeo or Dailymotion, but again, YouTube is easy because we have YouTube through our G Suite accounts. So I'm going to paste that URL I just copied, and I'm going to click add. And when I click this again, I confirm that I have rights to use this video. And there we go. Our Moxi video is right there in our website. Now, one other thing I often like to do, which you'll see here, just to let people know what the content is below, I'll sometimes add a row and add text to describe this, because the simple way to add video does not allow me to put text above it. So the easiest fix is to just go right here to the plus sign to add a row. We do want our row size to match the row below at this time. So I'm going to click my slider to make sure these line up and click OK. I'm going to add text and call it Moxi newsletter training. I'm going to highlight the text so I can reformat it to large, center it, and I'm even going to change it more to a more Coldwell Bankery color. So I'm going to make it blue, click OK. So now if I click away, you'll see that I have a row of text. Now it looks funny at first. It looks like it's going to be too high and it doesn't look like it's going to look right. But you'll see when we actually save this that because there's no content in this container will shrink to fit just the content that's in it. Hopefully that makes sense. If not, type something in the chat. But so that's how you would add a header row to a newsletter if you wanted to describe the content below without having to get a little more complicated by adding multiple items into the same box. So again, we're going to go ahead and add a row. I'm going to go this way. And that's it. I've got my row done. Okay. So now this is the trickiest part. But again, there's really only a few things to remember. And if you write it down, it's all you need to know. And it rarely changes. And in fact, what we're going to put in this container, you'll never have to do again because your floor calendar will update as long as it's the same Google Calendar. So we're going to do what's called iframing a web page. So we're going to actually put a whole web page into this one little container. Sounds kind of tricky, but it's actually pretty simple. So I'm going to go back to that floor calendar. And remember, we wanted to go into the, I'll go back in case anyone joined late. I went to my 3 dots and actually went into my settings and sharing, so that I could grab the actual public URL to this calendar. So I click on it once to highlight the whole thing and then right click to copy. I'm going to go back to my newsletter. And this time I'm going to go into the more option. So what the more option does is it allows you to do more advanced options, but it also allows you to add multiple types of content. I think just to keep it simple, the only thing you really need to go in here for is to do what we're about to do, because we saw we can add text above things if we need a descriptor. If you want to get in there and go silly and play with it and see what all you can do, absolutely give it a try, because there are a ton of things in here you can do. But we're going to go to the 4th icon in from the left-hand upper corner. And it's when you hover over it, it says iframe. It is the black and white globe. So I'm going to click on that. The dialog box is going to open. And before I jump into that, I'm going to check my chat. Can everyone see my screen? Seems like somebody lost my screen. Can anyone else?
I lost it, but I didn't want to interrupt you if it was just me.
Yeah, nobody else has said anything.
Okay.
Let me know if you can.
I can see it.
Okay. All right. Well, I will maybe log out and come back in. Thanks.
Okay. And we are recording as well, but yeah, definitely. All right. So in the URL box, we just copied the public URL for the calendar. And we'll do one for a web page too, so you can see the difference. But I'm going to paste that now. And then we have a couple more boxes. So, and you can even write these things down because they're really not going to change. And there's a big difference between how we treat width and how we treat height. Width is always, 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 I can't think of any other time, anytime I've used anything other than this, 98%. So 98 and the percent sign. The reason we're not saying 100 is because sometimes if basically we're telling the newsletter how much of this container to fill. And if we say 100%, sometimes your content is going to bump up against each other. So by putting in 98%, you're giving it a little bit of room to breathe. So that's why we use 98% in the width. And if you forget all the rest of it, don't worry about it. Just make sure you write down width equals 98%. Now, unfortunately, the height isn't as easy because as you've seen, when you've gotten newsletters in the past, a newsletter can go on forever as long as you want it to go. So there's no set distance on how much height is available for this container. So we need to tell it. I have always used numbers between 400 and 600. And we're going to look at an example as to why you'd want to use 600. But for this one, we're going to use 400. And then when we use 600, you'll see why the difference. But we're going to type in 400 and we need to tell it 400 what? Websites measure things in pixels. So behind the 400, we're going to type P as in Paul, X as in X-ray. So width is always 98%. Height is slightly variable between 400 and 600, but it always has to end in PX. I set my alignment to middle, always, and I enable my scroll bar. So those are really the only 4 things you need to remember. You don't have to do anything else. Paste your URL, give it your width and your height, align it, and enable the scroll bars. That's it, every time. Click OK. It does take some time for iframes to come in. So usually this is the point at which I first save my newsletter. The first time you save it, you're going to have to name this page because we're actually creating a page. So we'll call this June. Yes, for example. You can give it a description if you want, but really you just need to name it and save. And now you'll see when we scroll back down to the place we were just working, that calendar is now part of the newsletter. They can interact with it. They can see if June's been done yet. They can go back and see what they worked in April. They can click on things. If this was the education calendar, they could actually click on it and see the links or anything like that. So that's a good thing to put in here. It is a little smushed, so maybe I would have put 450 pixels, but again, you'll see that in a minute when we put in a web page, a different web page. I don't like to leave empty containers, so I'd probably just throw a nice image in here. Maybe we have 2 birthdays this month. I'll grab another birthday. And there we go. It was Jack's birthday not that long ago. So there we go. We're rolling right along. So the last thing is, I want to put in a web page. So say that you did go out to your board and you had market share reports. I'm going to use the Coldwell Banker blog just because it's easy to find and I always have it up and available, just so we can see how that works. I'm going to add a row. And that's the way I want it because I like mine to go zigzaggy. That's just, again, how I lay things out. That's just how my brain works. So in this box here, I'm going to put a post from the Coldwell Banker blog. And it's going to show us a couple things. It's going to show us the difference between 400 and 600 and why it's important. And it's going to show us just how to grab any old web page or web content that we might want to share with our agents. So I'm going to go back to the tab that has all of my assets in it or open in it. And I'm going to go to Coldwell Banker. Let's see. So this would be interesting to agents. So with the Dream ad campaign, let's go ahead and grab this. This is their new ad campaign. It's obviously making headlines. So maybe sharing that with your agents would be something you'd want to do. So I clicked onto the blog post so that this URL is specific to this blog. Move this down a second. I'm going to click once to highlight the whole URL. I'm going to right click to copy the URL. I'm going to go back to where I'm working on my newsletter. And in this box right here, I'm going to go back to more. Going to go to my little black and white globe so that I can iframe this web page. And that just means I can put this whole web page right into my blog. I'm going to paste the URL. 98%. We know we don't have to worry about that. That's never going to change. And this time I'm going to go ahead and do a height of 600. Actually, you know what? We're going to do this twice so I can show you the difference. I'm going to do 400 like we did before, pixels. I'm going to save my page. This time I won't have to name it. It'll just save and take me back. And there you go. It takes me down to that post that I just entered. And you can see that the height is about the same. It is the same as the calendar we put in before. But the problem with 400 here is it just seems kind of confusing because you can't really see what this is. You can kind of see some words here and this here, but you don't see enough to encourage you to want to read what this is about. So we'll call this an oops. How do we fix an oops? We can go here to the X in the upper right-hand corner, and we can try that again. Again, any content that you want to remove or replace, you just click that X and it'll take it out. And that's what I did with that web page. So I'm going to go back to more. I'm going to try it again. I'm going to grab my globe. I haven't cleared my clipboard, so I can still just paste and that URL is still there. I'm going to hit 98%. This time I'm going to try 600 so we can see the difference. And again, that's PX for pixels. Middle. Enable scroll bars. Okay. Save my page. And see, now you can actually see enough depth here to know what this is all about. And it kind of, you see enough to make a connection and to want to know what they have to say. So then you can actually sit here and scroll through this content right here within the newsletter. So I'm going to throw this picture back in. I was just showing you how to get rid of content for a second time. And we're going to look at what we did. So I'm going to save. Always make sure you save before you leave. We're going to go out of this page, the page that we're laying out. And now this probably looks familiar. This is where all the slides usually are. And also where we can actually view what we've done. So there we have it, our nice little header, our text, our image boxes, our video that'll play right inside the newsletter. Obviously, we were still masked up back then. And you can pause, play, do whatever you want. You can fully interact with the video, or they should be able to also go out to YouTube. Yep, to view it on YouTube by clicking right there. Images, the interactive calendar, because it's actually a web page embedded in the newsletter. And then here we have that blog post. So we came up with some great content to share with our agents on a useful website that they may not know about. And you don't have to come up with it. It's there for you. You just have to embed that web page right there. And there's no copyright issue because they're actually on the web page. They can see whose content it is. So I know that's a lot. Again, this is recorded. You can go back and watch it as many times as you want. I think it's a great way to share a lot of things with our agents other than information, what they can do with the tools that are out there that maybe they've forgotten about. And the fact that you, their ASC in the office, know how to use these tools. We're experts. We can walk them through it. We can share these ideas with them and encourage them to use it and let them know it's not that hard or scary. So definitely, I know that was a lot. I'm open for questions. I'm also open for one-on-ones. Since the Michigan training, we've had quite a few ASCs reach out to me and share with me their newsletters that they've created. They've gone in there, and a lot of people are having fun with doing it and getting that content out to their agents. Let's see here. All right, you guys are so quiet. Any questions? Does it look scary? Does it look accessible? Does it look exciting? I should make a poll. Let's see. Exciting, yay, good. Yes, I like it. I think it's exciting too. Yes, and it is fun. And again, like I said, that as well as sharing with your agents that you're an expert and would love to help them with this stuff, you get to get in and play with it and come up with different ideas. And definitely, yeah, a bit overwhelming. It is a little overwhelming, but that's what your Moxi team is here for. We're always here for you, and great for communications. It's a great way to consolidate communication. So you're not sending out 5 emails a week or 20 emails a month. You're just sending out one with all the information on it. Sales meeting and lunch and learn schedules are also a good thing to be on there. That would probably be on your floor calendar though. But yeah, just if you come up with any unique ideas, share it with the rest of us too, because it's a really cool tool. And again, I think the more that we get it in front of the agents, the more excited they're going to be about using it. And yeah, cool. All right. Well, I will make sure to get the video uploaded to the classroom before I leave today. And other than that, don't hesitate to reach out. We're all here to help, and we'd be excited to help. I know I'd be excited to help. So if you need help, let me know. Let's see what we got here in the chat. Deborah, what office are you in? What state, what region is that? Okay, shoot me an email and we can get you hooked up with some one-on-one, as well as the technology. Just a reminder to everyone, we do have the monthly technology courses. We had a Engage 101 today. I think we have 201 tomorrow. So don't forget that cadence. Those are always great places to go. And actually the Present 201 is always about creating newsletters. So that's always available too if you need a refresher. All right, everybody. Well, thank you much. Don't hesitate. And I hope everyone has a wonderful day. And if you do create a newsletter, go ahead and send me a copy. I'd love to see it. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Judy.
Absolutely.